by, oh, we're joined by a very special guest, Mr. David Townshend. How are you?
I'm great. How are you today, Harry?
I'm awesome, brother. I'm actually genuinely happy for this one. I love interviewing people, and especially people that are interesting and have got so much to offer. And you were very young, David. You came on my Facebook, my YouTube actually. You were on my YouTube, and I found you an interesting person. We talked before, but didn't record it. And yeah, I found out lots of amazing things about you. You're very young, so perhaps you'd like to tell us where you are, and what you're up to in this moment in your life, and how did you get there?
All right, yeah, for sure. So I grew up as a child that was always somebody with an inquisitive mindset. I always was questioning the nature of my reality from a young age and like never really satisfied with just the kind of lifestyle that is normal Babylon society that most people are indoctrinated to. And I would spend a lot of time in like deep contemplations and just like making connections to certain things in the world. And like I remember some of like I guess traumatic experiences in my life have literally just been me sitting in the shower or standing in the shower and just like what is death and what's gonna happen when I die and all this
Just
kind
a
of
quick
stuff.
one. It's cutting out a little bit. Are you pressing are you pressing something that's making it cut out? Like, or is it just a little bit every now and again? I can hear him, some of it.
Well, the connection is not exactly the best out here,
Okay, I'm with
but
you.
like I'm
Yeah.
gonna do what.
Yeah, carry on. So you said that you always felt like you weren't a member of the Babylon team, like the part of the just questioning from a very young age.
Yeah, and so that got suppressed as I started to get older through like just being in society, like family that I grew up in where nobody else was like talking about these things because it seems that like it's something that most people are so afraid of that and I completely understand that. And then I went through like a long period of time where I was just like really, having the best childhood you could ask for. I don't completely say that like, I'm grateful for every experience. Then around 14 years old, I had like a deep depression, and that came from like a breakup that I had, and that caused me to really go deep within myself, discover how I can really find like happiness, fulfillment in life. And I started by watching a lot of YouTubers. First ones that I would watch is like Infinite Water, and he taught me about how to overcome depression, how to reprogram the subconscious mind, and how to like start using more holistic practices, more natural ways to heal yourself rather than having to use anything external. And so that's when I started getting into meditation and started getting into a lot of like the more deeper topics that I find myself uh, like really wanting to master today. And it took a long time to really hammer all the points that I'd learned and really
You're
make
quite young
them.
though, aren't you? So you're saying at 14 years old, you're only 19 now, right? You're very young. Yeah. So when you said take a
And
long time, it's 5 years it's taken you to get to this point of like what you consider where you're at now, right? I mean, like proficiency and particularly which you're going to come to in a bit, where you're actually at now as well in terms of physically. So.
yeah, exactly. Because I've known about a lot of these lifestyle changes, like uh, being a raw vegan and like doing the daily meditation and yoga and tai chi and qigong and using like different plant medicines and stuff. But I would, and especially with the urine therapy too. I've actually known about urine therapy for like 4 years, 5 years now. But like,
Wow.
I would see it like my favorite YouTubers talking about it, but I'll be like, that's the one thing that I can't like agree with, or I can't myself to try it because it's like too disgusting.
Yeah.
I found your channel. You actually got me to start doing urine therapy. So,
and you were ready.
like,
You were
so
old.
grateful for that.
Oh, thank you. And you were ready. You were older. You were more, probably braver. Maybe at 14, 15, you were a little less like, revolved, probably like everyone else is, ugh. And now it's like, yeah, he's probably related to me too. Like, I'm a young guy, aren't I? Like yourself and us young guys. We relate to different people. Sometimes the message is, same with, like, it hits you and like, oh, this person's saying it in a way that I can motivate me to get on board. And yeah.
Yeah. And like, I never really had any support like that when I was younger. In fact, anybody that I would talk to about this, family or friends, they would all really pretty much like say I was crazy, or just like um, turn it into like a joking manner. And then for a while, I started to actually kind of like fall into that trap of thinking that all this stuff was like this whole spiritual side of life was just mumbo jumbo. That like if it's not practical or if I can't see it with my two eyes, then it can't be real. And that's the paradigm that the whole society is structured around. So it really does take, I feel like, a supportive community, somebody that's willing to like hear you out and say like,
Yeah.
For these same things, and like you're not crazy. That's what I feel like it really takes to actually for many people to really start like utilizing a lot of these practices and
That's
seeing
powerful what you said. That's powerful what you said. You're talking about the power of people, the power of the masses. Like, if there's so many people saying one thing, you start to go crazy in a way, and I can relate to that. Like, you think, am I crazy? Or, because everyone else is like completely saying this thing, and like, yeah, it's the power of people. Like, and they're wrong. They've been wrong, they are wrong, but it's hard to break away. And I'm at your age, it's really incredible that someone so young like has managed from 14 to like really break away from, and to end where you're actually at now is just phenomenal and crazy to me. I'm like super stoked and inspired by you, ironically, and because you're a young dude and I'm young too, but I'm always motivated by young, old people. I can learn from everyone. And yeah, man, just what you're doing at 19 years old is incredible, and in such a short space of time you've come such a long way. It's crazy.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I actually have never met anybody like around my age that's been doing a lot of these same practices that I have until I came where I'm at now. I'm actually in a community that's permaculture. We're all vegan community that is basically what we do is we grow all of our own foods here, and we're like a zero waste community that doesn't like we have a compost, and we make sure that everything gets recycled back into the land, and we're all on the same path of wanting to evolve and expand our own consciousness. And community has been around for about 5 years now, so we're still in the beginning stages. But since I've been here, I've actually met one other person my age that like started on a very similar path as I have, and it's really like to the point where I can't even deny how synchronistic and how every experience of my life has like led me here, and that there's just something beyond this physical world that's guiding me, and I call them, ancestors, spirit guides, like the Lord and divine team and divine parents and archangels and all of these like beings. I feel have always given me these signs and directions pointing me to come here, and now I'm finally here. Learning.
It's crazy. Do you know what? I feel like we're very similar in another way. Like, I've also doubted, because I came into this community from self-improvement, and it wasn't even physical health, it was self-improvement. So I was very like, what I see is all there is, and I didn't really believe in the spiritual stuff. And even now, I don't specialize in spiritual emotional, but I believe it. I can't deny, and I feel like I've had to unbrainwash myself as I've gone through this journey of like, actually there is such thing as synchronicity. There's so many happening all the time now. I can't deny it anymore. Like, everything that's my life, your life, is just led up to these moments of like, now we're connecting, now we're meeting powerful people, now our lives are transforming. it's undeniable, and I've been through that, like, and I'm still learning to unbrainwash myself, because I still sometimes cynic inside me still goes, nah, it's all bullshit. Sometimes my lower self is like that, but I know it's not. It's true. There's divinity. And do you know what I think as well, David, on that? I feel like we don't even need to know specifically 100% what is out there that is manifesting the magic. You could say it's archangel spirits, astrals, all kinds of conscious frequency beings for the good and different. But it doesn't really matter to me. But I just know, and we know that it's something out there that's it's not just us. It's not just us.
Yeah, yeah, that's sure. Yeah, like a lot of times I'll actually like say before I do a meditation, I really like to say prayers out to these beings. So even though, I might not be able to see them with my eyes, or I might not have a direct two-way communication, I can at least give my gratitude and give my prayers out and offerings, so that I actually have found, like, I gain a lot more uh, like signs or synchronicities in my life when I do that. And um, so, like, you don't have to exactly see what it is that you're talking to, but you make the effort and you'll see the results, is what I've found for sure. But it's very, very much true what you said.
Yeah.
And
So can we so you said you're in a conscious community in Ecuador, right?
yeah,
And can you talk a little bit about how you were leading up to that? Because you're quite new there, so you're only a couple of weeks in. What happened? How long have you been prepping? Has this just happened out of synchronicity that you end up where you are? And talk a little bit about just before and the videos you were making and stuff like that.
yeah. So I actually, like, as soon as I graduated from college or from high school, I went to do one semester in college, and I knew basically, um, even before I graduated, that I was at college. Like, I didn't want it to be my only option, and I wanted to explore different ways of um, being able to live in a efficient manner where I can grow myself, like, on all levels. And I just set that intention out into the universe while I was in college, and always looking for new ways to do that. Like, I was actually really considering becoming a monk in Thailand, and very close to, like, book that trip and, like, actually commit to that. But then I found a YouTube video from the person that has played a significant role in creating this community, and his name is Raw Healing Mastery on YouTube, or Kevin. And so he taught me about how this whole lifestyle that I've been living has basically just not only, like, been destructive to myself and to the planet, but that it is literally one. I could be like one flight away, or just like one lifestyle change away from completely transforming uh, how I live my life, and not needing to take from the earth, or even when I do it in the most minimal way, and then give back as much as I can. And from there, you're basically taken care of by the universe, if you ask me. And so, like, when I heard him talk about that, I started, like, breaking down crying, because I went through all my experiences in my life where I really seen that, like, I had been consuming so much, or living in a lifestyle that was completely unnecessary. I saw how easy it was to make the change, and I was like, how have I not done this before? I made an instant decision as soon as I saw that this is what I was going to do, and that this is what I needed to do.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and right after that is when I booked, like, my flight and made the plans to come here. And I spent about a month or two on, like, a mostly 95% raw diet, 80%, and that has made it a much easier transition to be here. Um, and it's been very intense and very challenging, and a lot of fears and stuff that I've had to overcome through, but that has allowed me to grow faster than more than any period in my life, I would say, just these past couple weeks.
Yeah. What gives you, what can I ask you, what gave you the motivation? What gives one, yourself, the motivation to make that decision? I mean, is it because you think that that was your personality? Is that because what did you break? What made you, man? Because people would wonder. I mean, is it you're saying it's that easy, and I kind of agree. But how did you get to that point of like making that decision of your life's going to change forever? Because people stop doing that, don't they? People don't make that decision a lot in life. If we're talking about a lot of people don't. They know what's right and they don't do it.
Yeah. Honestly, seeing that in other people, seeing where it leads to if you don't make these lifestyle changes, that is really sealed the deal for me, especially seeing my own family. Not to go like too deep into it, but like I have my dad, he had very bad problems with like alcohol addiction, and it runs in my family. And I've seen family members die before like 45 years old through addictions. And I found myself, you know, at a certain point, getting addicted to certain things. Like I've barely done any drugs in my life, but I did alcohol for like a little tiny period. And like just going through that myself for that short amount of time, it made me realize that like I have to do this, or else like
Mm.
you know it'd be extremely easy for me to fall onto some kind of path like that. And
Yeah.
you know that's the last thing I want for myself. So you
Yeah.
know it's really the matter of, I feel like, putting your self-worth
Mm.
at a level that you know society's not going to do it for you. You have to really say to yourself, you know, this is what my standards are, and this is where I'm going to force myself to be, no
Mm.
matter what it is. And you don't let anything stop you from that.
Yeah.
And getting yourself away from all the distractions
Yeah.
is what really make that much easier.
Oh, that's a key point you talked
Trying
about.
to
We
stick.
talked about this. We talked about this the first time with how to make changes and instigate improvements in our life, whether it be health, happiness, and what we want, and for our future. Like it's getting away from the environment. A toxic environment is a really big step for people. It's something that everyone can do that can really start a great change in someone like you've done. Maybe it doesn't even have to be as extreme as what you're doing, but I mean, getting away from that toxic environment is absolutely key, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's crazy. I definitely want to talk to you too about what you're up to there, because I know you're doing. There is so much. This could be a very long interview. We'll try and keep it short for you guys, but at the same time, we do want to get some information out there for you. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about. Um, so you're inspired definitely by the people, the consciousness, the no waste, but also you work so many health protocols too. You talked about urine therapy, and you do others too. I think semen retention. You do a lot of stuff. So talk to us a little bit about what motivates you towards all these physical health protocols, and what's your day like? Run us through a typical day over there.
All right. Yeah, well, in the beginning, I was doing a lot of like volunteering, and I didn't have too much time for a lot of my health protocols, or like it just wasn't a top priority. But now I am definitely like really getting back on them. Um, and so I'll say in the beginning of a day, I usually start off with meditation. Um, Today I did like a silent one, but I always do like physical exercises beforehand to warm up,
Mm.
like just to loosen myself up. And then um, like the most important time I feel to do a meditation is like right before bed or right before you wake up, because
Mm.
already in like that more relaxed theta wave state, just from being tired or just having just woken up. And it's a lot easier to get deep states like that. And sometimes I'll do it with people here. So that's really amazing to have a community to do it with. And then after that, I really will break my fast or something with like a watermelon, coconut water, something like very juicy.
Mm.
And um, like an important way to structure your eating. Like even more important than I feel like what you eat is
Mm.
how you compare meals and like what you eat throughout the day, like how you structure it. So you want to always eat like your juicier fruits like in the beginning of the day, and
Yeah.
then transition into like more heavier stuff like a salad later on at
Mm.
lunch or something. If you're gonna
Mm.
have like a food or like a nuts and seeds, then you do that at dinner time. But you want to keep a lot of that stuff separate for the most part, like the
Mm.
different food groups. And I've actually been eating like mostly only one meal a day here, with maybe
Cool.
some like fruits to sustain me throughout the day.
Mm.
But and actually, the past 8 months I've been doing that, one meal a day. And uh, I also will make an effort to do a calisthenics based workout every day.
Mm.
Usually 1 hour routine where I can incorporate the stretching aspect and the qigong aspect and
Mm.
calisthenics. And then at the end, I'll usually do like a breath work type of exercise. Usually it's like a Wim Hof method.
Mm.
And I also should mention that I like to do like a cold shower in the morning or
Mm.
go by the waterfall they have, because that will basically stimulate your whole system to go into a state where it's like adapting to new levels of stress.
Yeah.
You're increasing your willpower, and it also wakes you up on all levels, and your energy like just goes through the roof after that for me. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I also make sure that I like to do like a some type of a yoga practice. I like to do sun salutations, preferably.
Mm.
Those ones have actually been recommended to me by many spiritual teachers, and it's like yoga. It goes a lot deeper than it's. Some people are actually like the reason it was created was to
Mm.
prepare for, like meditation and the
Mm.
mind and the spirit. So
Yeah.
I will make sure to incorporate that. And then usually, whenever I'm feeling like it, I'll do like a Tai Chi type of practice where I'm just
Mm.
going with the flow and letting myself kind of move however my body feels like it needs to.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll be more like a dancing type of movement.
Mm.
And I found myself dancing here more than I have my whole life, which has really made a
Cool.
huge change for being open, like share and like not afraid to express myself. And
Yeah. Huh.
like I usually always make an effort to record like a YouTube video.
Mm.
Although uploading here has been very difficult,
Mm.
but um, what I'm gonna end up doing is just like shortening the times and then very frequent amounts of time to videos, because
Mm.
usually like for the past 4 months every single day, um,
Mm.
and like the videos 30 minutes long longer,
Mm.
and I'll go whatever I feel like humanity needs to hear that has
Mm.
helped me grow the most throughout my life.
Mm.
Different metaphysical topics, some things that like can't really be taught by science, or things that like I've just come to conclude through my own
Mm.
contemplations and practice, like the nature and all of that. And
Mm.
I'll spend a decent time every day. So going out into the community and speaking with the locals here to practice my Spanish and get better with it. And I've
Oh.
found,
Yeah.
yeah,
How's your
like
Spanish coming along? You've
speaking.
only been there a couple of weeks, so I guess you're learning pretty quickly your Spanish from interactions.
Yeah, I studied for 5 years in school, so I'm at
Oh.
least able to
Mm.
have a conversation pretty easily with anybody out here. But I feel like you learn 1,000 times immersing yourself in the environment of
Yeah.
and so that has made it like so much easier and
Yeah.
much more fun. Something that I really want to do rather
Yeah.
than like feeling to do it. And
Mm.
that for everything as well. Like I'm not forcing myself a lot of times to do these practices. Although there's a certain level of like that masculine forcing yourself energy, there's also that side
Mm.
where you have to make sure that you're enjoying it. And if you're not, then it's most likely not going to be sustainable for you. So
Yeah.
you have to take things at your own pace. Never let like anybody else dictate how fast or how slow you go with making these changes in your life. And uh, you know, you'll go through a lot of intense detoxification, and it'll seem like you might be sick, or you might seem like things are getting worse,
Mm.
when in fact you're coming off of all of these things that you've been addicted to or that your body's been used to its whole life. So
Yeah.
just like addiction, you're gonna go through that initial withdrawal, that initial like pain, whatever it is, before you get all of that stuff, all of that like, junk out of you, and
Mm.
then feeling a million times better. You can't even compare what life feels like before and
Yeah, just to amplify to a little bit about the detox reactions. So you've had detox reactions from eating good foods now, from a junk diet, I guess, in your childhood and all the stuff going on. So some people give up and blame the medicine. So you're saying that people should understand the difference with. Sometimes you're saying people need to get worse and go through really tough times and then come out the other side. And it's not the medicine's not working. It's just that's the level of toxicity within the body, whether that be food toxicity or even emotional toxicity or porn or whatever people are addicted to, right?
yep, exactly. And it's funny you bring up. I wanted to actually speak upon
Mm.
how I did have a lot of these addictions, and one of them was porn. And I've actually realized that since I've came out here, like I'm literally so everything out here is so beautiful,
Yeah.
so immersed into the environment and with nature that like you don't even want to look at that stuff anymore because your immediate environment is already so beautiful that you have
Mm.
like all of the stimulation that you need visually, basically, like right in front of you. So
Mm.
another factor detoxification is on that mental level of rising above the base desires and
Mm.
um, being in an environment where you know you actually enjoy like what you're seeing visually and stuff. It really helps you overcome that lower desires as far as
Yeah.
like that, you know, that aspect. So that's something I really wanted to mention that
Thanks for
been
mentioning it. And you also brought a great point as well, like because I'm unaddicting myself at the moment. This year I haven't, but last year. So I think I'm done with porn for good. Never say never, but I'm trying my best. But
yeah,
for what you touch a good point, like boredom is actually one of the reasons why I, and I'm sure other guys too, get to that point of like you're in your room, you think, oh, this will be a bit of fun, a bit of stimulation, the genital thing for a couple of seconds, and you're done. And you think that's the pinnacle of life, and you're like, oh cool, I'd love that experience. And of course no one's watching, so you don't feel guilty about it, and it's just people on a screen. And yeah, it's boredom, man. I feel like there's it's such a waste of life.
I know, yeah. And like when you realize who's behind it, behind these agendas and stuff, and you see
Mm.
how Disney is the one funding a lot of these websites, like how do you think we're able to watch them for free?
Yeah.
You see like how all of this really is structured, then I feel like that actually more than anything has really gotten me to see that like this is a whole weapon that's being formed against us, and it's destroying us on so many levels. And
Yeah.
yeah, becoming aware of like the war or like the agendas that are going on is
Yeah.
extremely fundamental to seeing why a lot of these things have much bigger impacts than we realize.
I like that, David. You're not saying like let's go super spiritual and look at everything in positive, like everything's positive. There's no negative. Don't go to the negative. You're saying actually we need to look at the negative too in life. A bit of balance, yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. That is like something that I struggled with in the beginning a lot. I felt that like maybe if I was only, using the positive affirmations and
Mm,
not going into like the deepest parts of myself through shadow work and stuff, then I thought I would be that was the solution. Just like do meditation, like think positive, and everything will be all right. But actually,
mm,
the the deepest parts of ourselves that we've hidden and suppressed, and going through all the traumatic experiences in our life,
mhm,
that is what allows for the deepest amount of healing, and
mhm,
that basically involve any type of like modality that you want to use, whether that be like through a therapy session, or through using like some kind of psychedelic or some kind of like plant medicine, or by doing you can induce those states naturally through like different types of breath work, or you know pretty much every single uh, holistic like approach or healing modality that people use uh,
mhm,
in society. Like the one thing that they all have in common is that you're basically overcoming your traumas and like going through, and then
mhm.
that is really where the most growth happens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and a lot of these traumas aren't even our fault. They come into us if we go into the woo woo. I guess some people call woo woo. That's not even our fault. We come into it. Our parents, and even beyond that, our grandparents, our ancestors. We're carrying traumas all over the place. And the matrix too. As soon as we get there, starts in school. You learning bullshit in school. Your left brain dominant. Your creativity gets crushed. And my God, it's enough if you don't be careful too to go too down the dark side, and then you lose yourself. And you can go
Yeah,
too much down the pedophiles, the Walt Disneys, and the world's all bad, and then there's the balance between that, and then the other side, like we said, of going too far towards the light, and you're forgetting about actually there is a lot of darkness, and I need to look at my shadow to grow. I can't just look at the light. And I love the way you say it, man. I really love this. The way you break things down. It's so eloquent. It shocks me that someone so young, in the most beautiful, humble way, is you explain it in such a nice way to people that, and it's because it's deep to you, it's your truth that you're learning on your journey, and sharing it so powerful.
yeah, man. I really appreciate you saying that. And that that is also something that I struggled with a lot, is getting very deep into that darkness,
Mm,
and what is really going on in the world. And you know it it really can get you to a point where all this spiritual work and all this work, it can really drive you to a point of like you know I don't want to say the word insanity, but just like
mm,
being disconnected with
yeah.
yourself, because like we do want to be like insane on a certain level, because like
Mm,
what society calls insane is just what they don't understand. But at the same time, you want to make sure like that you're really using everything that you learn to actually connect with your true nature or your true self, because that is
yeah.
where all the learning happens, and it happens from within. And like the ultimate realization that you can really make, that you are God and that you're creating all of this, and that
Mm,
every single um, experience in your life, or everything that you've gone through, has
mm,
been leading you to awaken to the fact that you're creating all of it. And you know we we get to that point, and like that is where everybody's going to return to eventually. But at the same
mm,
time, we are here to enjoy this human limited experience, live live this experience fullest, because we came here to actually learn lessons and learn about
yeah.
who we truly. How can God know what God is unless it has something else to compare itself to? Just
Yeah.
like how
True. That's powerful. You just said
like
that. Yeah, you need like a duality, something, so infinite consciousness can see itself, right? Is that what you're
yeah,
saying? You need duality.
exactly.
You need lessons. Lessons comes from duality. With it, I've often wondered, like, if you are just infinite consciousness and you're just bliss all the time, how can you see yourself? You just said it. Like, how can you see yourself? It just is what it is. There's no fun in that, is there? I mean, it's pretty awesome. Do you know what I think as well? I think that it's awesome for us to imagine infinite consciousness because we live in duality, because we don't know what it's like most of the time. We get tastes of it. We don't know what it's like most of the time. So we're like, cool, infinite consciousness. But when you're infinite consciousness, the other way around, you want duality. So it's
Yeah.
dichotomy. Like when you're one thing, you want the other. When you're infinite consciousness, you want duality, and like it's that perfect balance. Like, yeah, I'm so glad that I got to that point. Like, well, I understand now that we are God and we are God expressing ourselves in duality. And when we return, the hard part to me is this realm and what we're doing now. It's fun, don't get me wrong, but there's tough parts for us to come still. Shadow work and all that stuff. And the easy stuff comes in infinite consciousness. But then when we go to infinite consciousness, we might get bored again. We might be like, oh, it's a bit boring, isn't it? Right? Let's have a challenge. Let's go back to Earth School and learn.
Yeah, like the vacation at home, and it's like we're all just going on different vacations and just like seeing what it's like to truly experience everything. When you open yourself up to receive more of that, then you become a lot more fulfilled. I feel like, and a lot of us in life, we're so trapped in our ego and so trapped in our minds that we want nothing more than to basically build up our sense of self, or sense of like identity, or like make that, how can we present ourselves to the world in a way that we're seen, how we want others to see us. But for me, I've found like it's a lot more fulfilling to just see the world from like everyone's perspective, and not really getting too attached to how you're basically perceived by others. Although like you said, there is that balance. We need to like present ourselves in a way that others can actually relate to us.
Yeah.
But
But
like
not the cost of validation in terms of like seeking their approval and that kind of stuff, like, and not being ourselves. Because then if you're always wondering what other people think and people pleasing them, how can you actually be yourself? You're true who you actually are underneath it all, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, like basically after you've balanced a lot of like the energy of like transforming, or like conserving the seed, and you've learned how to like balance it, and you've learned how to conserve all the energy, that's when you can actually start like transmuting it and using it to basically like express that truth of who you really are on the most profound level that you can. And a lot of the practices that you've talked about with like Montachi and like those Taoist principles, those have also made a very significant impact in my life. Everybody to learn, I feel like, how to conserve and transmute that
Can you
energy.
talk to us a little bit about what you're doing in terms of that? So you seam retention, you saying is not enough, and what is the Montauk Chia Taoism? What is it, and what kind of practices are you doing on a daily basis, or you tried before that seem to transmute the seed?
Yeah, so there's multiple levels to it. The one level that like I'll do with my meditations is you can actually go into some sort of feeling that your whatever emotions that come up, like especially one like anger can be very powerful, and then you go into the meditation and you completely feel through that, and then you can actually, by the end of it, by not resisting it and then fully surrendering to it, you're transmuting that anger into forgiveness or into kindness, because you're saying to yourself, accept this is who I am. And that is one way to transmute an energy. But another way is also through transmuting the reproductive energy, like not just the emotional, also the reproductive energy. And you transform that physical seed into a spiritual energy. And you do that through different practices like qigong, or at least that I've done, and that will help you restore it, like the different organs, or into the different bones, or into the different channels of the body. And
So quickly, why would that be? Is that because guys are getting sexual energy stuck in the penis or and the yoni for the women? They're getting stuck, and then qigong opens up the channels and lets the sexual energy vibrate everywhere, go all around the body. Is that why?
yes, like when you are conserving your seed in the beginning,
Mm.
um, unless you're finding a way to get it to circulate throughout your body, it is only going to be released in some other manner, whether that be through like a wet dream or through another relapse. And like it's it's something that takes a lot of practice, I found. But once you made that commitment to yourself, and you're like you're already at that point where you're conserving your seeds, so it's like I'm doing all this work, so why not just take it to the next level and see what I can do. And like after enough practice, then you'll really start to notice the differences. But you know, the hardest part is getting through the stages where you're like doing all this work of like trying to draw it up through like maybe contractions of the perineum or anything like something like that. And you might not be feeling the results instantly, but then you know, it's like a muscle. Like there's literal muscles that are being worked out when you're shooting this energy. So just like when you're in the gym, uh, you know, you can't lift 300 pounds when you first start out. You know, you have to give yourself time to actually get yourself and be able
Plus,
to.
I feel like guys like me and you should explain as well that we're doing so many health protocols that are unlocking the channels like qigong, meditation, yoga, fasting, eating the right foods, and timings of when we're eating. And these all are doing the same thing. They're unblocking the channels, and that makes the sexual energy medicine from semen retention way easier to circulate around the body when we do the anus contractions or before, because we're doing so many. It's not just like I'm not even trying to say one thing. It's like we're doing so many things that are doing the same thing, right? Unblocking channels, like.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, yoga plays a very big part in that, and Tai Chi plays a very big part in that. But like, you know, you've mentioned many different ways as well with like the big draw and like all of that stuff. And you know, what we're really trying to do here is we're trying to get that uh, root chakra that most of us are living in, and we're trying to expand our sense of our awareness to like the higher energy centers or the other chakras. And like we can easily activate one chakra and then have that be imbalanced. Like we can activate our third eye chakra very easily by like being exposed to through, you know, different plant medicines or something like that, or just having a very deep awakening. It'll like completely open up that one chakra, but then all the rest of the other chakras are out of balance. So by doing it in a way that's like the more holistic approach that you and I take, then we're actually opening up all of the energy centers at the right way,
Right.
and working from the base and then building up from there until we're actually able to channel it all
Literally
the way.
grounding ourselves with the root, and working from chakra number 1 to 7. And the sexual one's very low at the bottom, isn't it? The sexual for the men and women, our sex is very well. It's amazing, but it's a lower chakra, isn't it? A basal chakra, not a higher center. Right?
Yeah. And so like by activating like all of these energy centers within us, then we'll find that like our stream of consciousness or a stream of thoughts that we have on a daily basis are not just centered around survival, but we're actually like in a thriving state, basically, where we're having thoughts that are we call them thoughts, but they're really messages or something that we're receiving from the divine, like from sources that are outside of us, basically. And so you'll find that your thoughts are of a much more pure essence on a daily basis. And that doesn't mean you don't have thoughts every day about like wanting to go and indulge into deep into like base desires. Still have those thoughts, but it's just a lot frequent.
Yeah. It's a process, isn't it? You can't just the day or tomorrow reduce your desires for the lower basal chakras. It's all a work. We're all works in progress here on the plane, for sure. I love what you said there. Definitely.
Yeah. It is like something that I've found myself, especially by being here, not even wanting to indulge into a lot of like these lower desires, but like they do come on. You want to make sure that you're not like torturing yourself. And if you have some kind of like craving, for like maybe a food or something like that, you don't want to like torture yourself, because then that's going to be all you can think about if you're just like not letting it satisfy, to a certain level.
Yeah.
So it goes back to what I was saying earlier, make sure that you can enjoy it. If not, you'll not stick with it.
Yeah, powerful. So you want to progress like 2 steps forward, 1 step back almost. Like we're always progressing, but we have to honor the fact that we aren't perfect creatures ever. And like we're always like wanting those base things and give into it sometimes, as opposed to like not giving into it, because then you just manifest in, you obsess over something, then it becomes bigger than if you just cut it in the bud and just gave into that for once and forgave yourself. It'd be much better than, letting it build, and then it becomes a problem. And that's what many people in society do. They turn things into traumas that at conscious level, they don't even need to do that. So, yeah.
We, like anybody that's on that path, it's like straight, and it's a much more bumpy ride than we think.
Yeah.
Or than most people think. And you have to be willing to accept that and go through it. Well,
again, it's like the Disney, isn't it? It's like the Disney movies. The Disney teaches you it's like a pretty line up the top. You might, a very straight, nice line, and you just magical, and it's not, is it? It's bumpy.
Yeah, exactly. You might even reach like a lower point than when you started before you have to go and shoot yourself back up, like you were saying. So, it can be very easy to deceive yourself. That is for sure. And think that you're not really progressing when you really are. And especially with something like meditation, we think that the goal is to like silence your thoughts or something like that. When all you can do is just like think about, all these random things throughout the day. But the goal is to actually just be fully aware of what you are thinking, because awareness alone is going to lead you to be able to overcome all your addictions and diseases. I think that's where it really starts from. Like, and the only thing that does create a lot of these diseases is like stress, honestly, and that stems from being stuck in like the past or the future. But when you're fully here now, then you can actually feel what it is that your body is telling you that it needs, and then you don't need to like actually go to any external source to tell you what to do, because you already kind of know, basically. And that's when you're really transcending like belief systems, and you're actually going from a space of what you intuitively like know it's deep inside of you. And that's the difference between like a lot of religions that teach and the actual spiritual side of it. Although like people really do misinterpret what spirituality is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. This is powerful, man. This is powerful. And you're completely right what you're saying as well. Let's talk a little bit about urine therapy, if that's okay with you. And because you said when you got there that a lot of people were doing urine therapy, and I found that a bit weird, to be honest with you. So, tell us about what you're doing with urine, what you've been doing with urine therapy, what you're experimenting with, what other people are experimenting with there, and have a little talk with us about that.
Yeah. So you got me started with it around like 1 or 2, and at that point I had been drinking it like fresh, like first thing in the day, experimenting with like pretty everything you described. But the one thing I didn't have was like a syringe or like a neti pot.
Mm.
Then
Mm-hmm.
when I got here about like 3 weeks ago, so you that is like literally just stick it in your nose and then um, like tilt your head to the side,
Mm.
and then you can actually sort of like flip going up deep into like different parts, and but basically like it'll come shooting back down
Mm.
later. You feel like so much more clear inside of here, and there's so much like stuff that is being that you're reaching into like deeper brain. That is one method that I've been in. With the enemas, like they're very powerful because
Yeah.
basically you have all this stuff that is like crammed and lodged inside, that you're not able to out, but then you need that extra assistance to basically clear everything that's still left over.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, a lot of times I'll do that an hour end up, and it's like a whole like I didn't even know that I had to use the bathroom or something, but then it comes out and you realize, whoa, this
Yeah.
stuff is just like
Yeah.
I never even was feeling it in there. But then so like other things that I've been doing is using it to like drop her in my eyes, and,
Cool. Yeah.
and that actually helps me basically like clean out your eyes, and get just another way to get it deeper into yourself, like,
Mm.
and always urine is having it fresh, but
Does it sting, right? Does it
also
sting a little bit? The aged urine in the eyes stings you.
not as much as really I would most people would expect. Like it's a lot more pleasant. Feels like basically just like putting eye drops in.
Mm.
But yeah, I guess it's a thing to a certain extent.
Mm.
And like yeah, I also do it in my ears too. Like just
Cool.
put your little and that also really helps it to get into the brain. I feel too. But
Yeah.
and like basically every single like, hole is what I've been using.
There we go.
And
I love that,
it's
David.
like
So every hole, that was my first book. Every hole will do. Get it in any hole, like the ears, the eyes. You're doing the bum. You're doing the nose. You're doing the skin, which is a very important organ. You're doing the drinking down the pie hole. Doing it all. Yeah. And you said as
yeah, I
well,
did the
you said to me before that the people there are doing it also. You were surprised they're doing aged urine as well, but they're not doing all the protocols you're doing with it. So they are doing aged urine. I think they're just drinking it, right? And you're doing all of the other stuff, everything.
yeah. Well, some people are actually like this one guy I met. He has been on like an 8 year and fast right now, and he's actually been doing the enemas every single day. When I would only do them about like 1 time a week. So
Mm,
like
wow. Yeah.
like there's like more people here that
Mm,
do age urine therapy than people that don't do it. Or I mean like
nice.
at least more
I
people
love
that
that.
have tried. Yeah.
How sick is that? That's awesome. That's my dream. You live my dream. Everyone's on aged urine there. It's like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, I wasn't afraid to share it like on the first
Mm,
day that I came here, and
mm,
you know, very quickly found out that there that I have been attracting, these people, or that like I just found myself exactly where I needed to be,
yeah.
and like it's quite fascinating just to see that like I'm not alone on this journey, and how sheer amount of like
Mm,
how many people are this, because it's like we're all in the same vibration, far as like, we all want to advance ourselves in our consciousness and awaken ourselves. So it sort of like only makes sense, I guess,
Yeah.
now that I look back at it, that we're all sort of doing this, because for me personally, this has been one of the most profound practices I've done, because not only just how I feel from it, but the fact that it was one of like the biggest fears for me on this whole like spiritual journey.
Mm.
Like something that I just was too afraid to try, because I was
Yeah.
just like too gross or whatever. And
Yeah.
then when I found like started doing it, and I found out that it's actually like it gets to a point where you don't even think twice about it, and
Yeah.
it's come
Becomes
naturally.
normal. Becomes
Yeah.
normal. Yeah. And you know what? That's why I started in physical health. What happened was 3 years ago, before Facebook, this is before I was on Facebook and stuff. 3 years ago, I read a book called, I was always open-minded. I read a book called Martha Christie's Your Own Perfect Medicine in the park. And I read it and it made sense. And there was like studies on why it's amazing to drink fresh urine. So I drank the fresh urine. By the way, I was on tap water before this, not even bottled spring water, tap water. So you can imagine, I was on tap water. I tried my first of the morning urine. That made me so excited and happy, and the depression, the energy, it was such a transformation that I was like, whoa, now I've got to drink more. So I got more into fresh urine, and then I got excited and thought I need to go on Facebook and type in urine therapy, see if there's any groups. Then I started adding myself to urine groups for months on end, learned about looping urine, and then after 6 months or so, I found out about aged urine on the Facebook groups. And then that was a whole different journey. And it's like, wow, it changed my life. It literally is transformed. And I can't keep quiet like yourself. I can't. And you make videos on this. You said you have to. I have to tell people. I have to promote it. I have to, because I was brought up thinking it was a waste product. And how has no one told me that I can feel amazing on a substance that's supposed to have killed me by drinking it? And I was like, God, it's crazy.
Right. Yeah, and like actually one person here, he was telling me about how like when you age it long enough, then there's a certain like sediment on the bottom, and what he's been doing is actually like extracting that sediment from the bottom and putting it into like his nose.
Yeah.
And I actually never have done that, because I don't think I've aged it long enough to see that.
Mm.
But I'm actually curious to know like more about that, if you do know about that.
Well, I've heard, and I believe that's true. Some people think it's almost. Some people, I definitely think it's good. Some people dry it out and they dry it out and sniff it. Yep, like that guy. There's people that do that. There's people. Some people say, and I believe this to be true, but I don't know because I haven't experienced. They say it's the most powerful stuff. We already know aged urine is powerful, but the sediment at the bottom, whatever you do with that, it just, whether it be almost or not, it's just absolute magic. And I think it's undeniable that it's very powerful. And what Dr. Morse and other people would say is that it's waste. Not only is the urine waste, but the actual sediment is just sediment. It's just crap that's coming out. And I don't believe that to be true. And I think that guy's onto something with sniffing it. I'm sure it's doing something very powerful to whatever it is. It's doing something very powerful for him.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna definitely like look more into that. And so, have you actually tried that before or no?
No, not at all. Because of my situation, I have to be. I carry the bottle around with me, and I just have to. I can't. I'm actually aging some at the moment, hidden it around the place, so I can get in some 3 month old, and I'm starting to get a system going now of like old stuff, but it's not anywhere near. I've had before though little mushrooms at the top, like proper sediment come at the top. To be fair, I've had sediment come at the top of my urine bottles. So I've had some very powerful urines in the past, and they seem to have done a lot of good for me. When I drank a little bit of that, it was like, you see, and people in the urine therapy community some people they're new to it will say, oh, that looks disgusting, this sediment at the top and the bottom, and they'll say it's waste. And actually, even now, they'll say there'll be questions on the urine therapy groups of my aged urine looks disgusting, there's growing something. But the actual fact is that the aged urine purifies itself. It's never ever disgusting. Doesn't matter what it looks like. There's nothing ever bad in it, and it's a bit it's a bit annoying for me to see all the time that people are questioning because it looks disgusting, but yet it's not, because it's magic. Like whatever's in there.
Yeah. Wow. Oh
Yeah.
man.
But as well, there is a point that I'm sure I'm sure you're the same. Mine doesn't ever get disgusting looking. Doesn't matter how old it gets. I think there's the reason why people get that is because I'm not judging them, but they're not in the health world. They're not done enough detoxification. So they're detoxifying through the urine way more than us. We are too, but that's why their urine's becoming so disgusting looking, because there's so much shit in there that needs to be cleaned out. And ours is a little bit purer. Yeah.
Yeah, there definitely is a lot of contamination or something that can be in there, but like you said, over time it'll purify itself out. And like, yeah, I've been also doing like the putting it on my skin and everything. Like I didn't
Mm,
mention that, but that also,
cool.
you posted one time about how like uh, an indicator of how healthy you are is if you
Mm.
can like do a face mask with your and then see like get and like yeah, since I've been doing that, I've actually had a lot more clear skin, so it's a
Say that
nice
again. What was
indication
the
for me
what?
that I'm
So it
like
broke up
on
a
the
little
right
bit.
path with that.
It broke up a little bit. What was you saying? So what was the indicator of health? You putting the Asia in your face? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, and you posted how if you put it on your face
Mm.
and then you don't get any breakouts,
Yes,
then you
wiggly. Hmm.
that you're really like on the right path and your health is in good shape, basically.
Yeah. Yes, that's very true. I feel like that's true because I used to get it at the beginning, and probably you too, and all of us get it. And then people are like, "Oh, but the aged urine is making me worse. It's making my spots come out, and I don't like it." And like, yeah, that's because you're detoxifying. It's so powerful. There's toxins in your skin, bro, that are like coming out. Like it's all good. Stick
Yeah,
with it.
exactly.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. All right, David. One more thing I would like to ask you before you go is like, could you sum up what any message that you want to leave us with? Also, anything that I might have not asked you today that you feel is appropriate for people, a nice message or anything that I missed off.
Well, the main things I would love to say
Yeah.
is that our whole life is a series of breadcrumbs that are leading us to realize and signs that are telling us to awaken. And so, what I ask people to do
Mm.
is be fully aware of every experience that you have and look at it and indicate as a sign for growth, basically. No matter what you go through, however deep or dark it is, and you're questioning to yourself, how could this happen to me? Look at it from the way that it's all happening for your growth. When you do that, you're actually, you'll see that basically you are being guided through every experience. It doesn't matter how traumatic or anything it is. It was all meant to be. And when people realize this, they'll actually
Mm.
learn and gain a lot more from the experiences that would previously cause them a lot of more trauma than they would expect, or that they would have. Like, and that is the way to really go through and actually overcome these traumas. And then every event that you have, it'll ultimately lead you to realize that you are God and that there is nothing outside of you, really. And that even me talking to you right now is creation that you have made, and I'm literally just something that your consciousness uh, has created for itself to awaken to itself, basically. And
Nice.
like we can use this knowledge to actually heal ourselves and to heal others. And if you're not using it for that purpose, most likely you will end up having a lot of consequences or a lot of like karmic debts that you will have to settle. And so basically coming at all of this from the most pure perspective is how you're going to actually be able to use it to free yourself from whatever like quote unquote karmic debts you might have, things that you basically had that you've done either in this life or in past lives that are stopping you from true liberation. So, like the universe is really just preparing all of us to be a vehicle for for like these highest teachings, but it does require that purification. And so if you are interested in communicating with a lot of like these beings that I feel personally have like a significant role, then you can get an altar. Like I actually have one that I've been using for the past couple months, and I got it from Galacticus.com, so you can look that up. And I won't go too much into like who he is, but I'll say that's the most powerful one that I found. And so you use that to give offerings, and they say that like we have um, our ancestors like traumas that get passed down, and when we free them through like these offerings, then we're all freeing ourselves and unlocking our own DNA that has, you know, because like our ancestors basically have created their traumas, so like, that is something I feel is very much worth looking into. And I love using crystals, and I'll say where I got mine from is a psychic that I know is through my own like sessions that I've got from her, is like somebody that you can trust, and that will actually her services are 100% legitimate. And Speaks, and she has played a very significant role in my awakening, because I didn't know whether or not for a fact that like this whole spirit world existed and stuff, or like this whole
By the way, it broke up a little bit when you said the name of the person, the website. What was it again?
Indigo.speaks on Instagram.
Okay, cool.
And the website is Galacticus.com. And yeah, like when I had a psychic reading from this psychic, like not only did she predict things that came true in my life, but also she gave me a healing that she would, before like she would even tell me I just sent you like this energy, I would feel like a huge wave of like ecstatic bliss basically. And then she would say like, oh yeah, I just sent you this energy. And that was a confirmation for me, like that this whole spirit world, or this whole like quantum field where you can heal people anywhere in the world is real. And like I actually had that experience. Like there was no going back for me at that point, because once you experience it for yourself, then that will basically give you all the confirmation you need, and you don't have to believe anything that anybody says.
Yeah, powerful, brother. Wow, that is such a great summation of everything. Before you go as well, can you tell us where people can reach you if they want to learn more about your stuff? And you've got YouTube as well, so please tell us where people can find you.
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is my name, David Townshend, and the Townshend has a silent H, so spell that. And then my Instagram is Jesus_. My Snapchat is Jesus13.
How you spell Jesus? How you spell Jesus? Jesus.
Just like you would spell Jesus, but with a W, like so JEWSUS.
Okay, JWSUS. Jesus _. Jesus _.
I made that because I'm half Jewish, half Christian, and I'm also a creator, so that has been the most fitting name for me. And I made it like years ago and never changed it. But yeah, so that's how you can reach me.
Cool, awesome. Thank you so much for your knowledge. And we've got to do I would love to do a part 2 of you, maybe perhaps towards the middle end of because you were at the beginning stages we met you. So yeah, that's fascinating, brother. Thank you very much, everyone else, for watching too. This was Holistic Health Harry with David Townshend.